Before we begin, be warned. Some parts of this may be hard to hear. What follows is shared only for learning and viewing. These are exact words spoken in federal court during the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. Day 12 was supposed to be basic, just paperwork, some legal motions. But when Eddie Murphy walked in from a side door, everything changed. Reporters snapped to attention. The jury leaned closer. Diddy froze. No one knew Eddie was going to testify, not the media, not even most of the lawyers. But what he said under oath shook the room and sent waves far beyond it. "I've stayed silent for years," Eddie began, "but after what I saw, I had to leave Hollywood. I've carried that with me ever since." He sat upright in the chair. His suit was sharp, his voice steady, but his eyes, they held something older than fame. When asked to state his name, he answered clearly. Then he looked straight at Diddy. He adjusted the mic, leaned forward, and said, "I left Hollywood because I saw too much, and I couldn't forget it." Eddie didn't need to shout. The courtroom leaned in close. He started explaining how, back in 2006, his career was taking off again. Big offers, studio deals, awards buzz. "I had no shortage of work," he said. "The phone rang every day. I felt like I was in my 20s again. That's when the invite came. A quiet call from a big-name producer. He said there was a party in the Hollywood Hills. No official event, just one of those behind-the-scenes gatherings where careers are shaped and alliances made." Eddie had heard of them. Everyone in the business had. The secret parties Diddy was known to throw. No phones allowed, no cameras, just a strange kind of networking where guests were told to just enjoy. "I thought it would be the usual," Eddie said. "Music, drinks, people pretending to be important." But when he arrived, he sensed it immediately. This was not normal. A huge estate. An iron gate that only opened after a biometric scan. Valets in black suits took his phone and handed him a small card. The card read, "Only one phrase tonight, be who you really are." Inside, it wasn't loud or fun. No music, no laughter. Just whispers and long stares. It felt like a church, but not peaceful. It felt haunted. Eddie walked into the main lounge and looked around. He saw faces he knew, actors he'd worked with, athletes, powerful execs. But everyone acted strange. They weren't drunk or wild. They were quiet, careful, like they knew someone was watching. Then a woman in heels and a man in a robe walked past him, heading to a hallway. "That's when it hit me," Eddie said. "This wasn't a party, it was about power." The prosecutor asked, "So why did you stay even for a little longer?" Eddie answered, "Because I had to understand. I needed to see it. And God, forgive me, I did." After a few minutes, someone familiar approached. Diddy. He walked up like they were old friends, put an arm around Eddie and said, "Brother, it's about time you came home." Eddie gave a small smile at the memory, but it faded fast. "He didn't mean Hollywood," he said. "He meant this." Diddy was calm, proud, but cold. He walked Eddie through the house like a man showing off something. Only it wasn't art. It was what was happening behind the doors. As they walked, Diddy pointed at guests and whispered things like, "That one just approved a $200 million movie," or, "He follows my lead now." But the worst moment came when they stopped at a thick wooden door. Diddy looked Eddie in the eye and said, "This is where the real choices happen. Stay funny and broke, or level up." Eddie said he laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Diddy didn't laugh. He waited, serious, cold. That's when Eddie noticed something inside the room. A camera tripod, not hidden, right out in the open. He saw people go in looking nervous, and come out either smiling like they won something or completely hollow. Eddie didn't go in. He said he made an excuse, told Diddy he needed a drink. Diddy smiled and said, "No rush. We're all family here." Then walked away. That was the first warning sign, Eddie told the court. That's when I knew. It wasn't a party. It was a test, an initiation. He stepped outside to breathe. But a woman at the door stopped him. "You're not done yet, are you?" she asked, handing him a drink. "Nobody leaves before the experience." That phrase stayed in his head. The experience. Eddie went back inside. What he saw next confirmed every fear. His voice shook slightly as he told the court what happened. They took a group of us into a back room, he said. It was dark, no music. Just velvet curtains, candles, and a long table with silver trays on top. He was led in with other A-list names, including a rising action star. When asked who, Eddie hesitated. The prosecutor pressed. Eddie said it. Dwayne Johnson. The courtroom went silent. Diddy stood at the head of the table, smiling like a game show host. Tonight's about how far you'll go, he said. Greatness doesn't come cheap. You want Hollywood? Prove it. A tray was set in front of Johnson, covered, polished. A man in gloves lifted the lid. Inside, raw monkey brains, still pink, still steaming. Some laughed nervously. Some looked away. Diddy turned to Johnson and said, "Come on, Rock, eat that and the roll is yours." Eddie's voice cracked. Dwayne paused, then ate it. Didn't even flinch. Diddy clapped proudly. That's what I'm talking about. Then he looked, down the table. Who's next? Eddie said he froze. He felt sick. He scanned the room, searching for a way out. Then Diddy walked over and stood in front of him. He locked eyes with Eddie and said, "You ready, preacher boy?" Eddie replied, firmly, "I didn't come here for this." Diddy leaned in, whispered, "Then why are you here?" The court stayed completely silent as Eddie described that moment. He didn't run. He walked out slowly, but with purpose. "I wasn't afraid of what they'd do to me," he said. "I was afraid of what they'd already done to others, as—" He left, Diddy shouted. "You'll come back, when you're ready to really make it." Eddie never came back. And Hollywood was never the same for him again. I told him I was a man of faith, Eddie said calmly, adjusting himself in the witness chair. And I meant it. I wasn't going to eat anything. I wasn't going to sign anything. And I sure wasn't going to give up my soul just to fit into that circle. He looked at the jury. That's when Diddy made sure I'd pay for walking out. "If you don't play the game," Eddie said, "the game plays you." Eddie explained what happened after he turned Diddy down. He wasn't hurt physically, but his career was. He laughed at me, Eddie said. He turned to the room and said, "Look at this church boy, thinks faith gets you a movie deal." Everyone laughed, forced, awkward. But it was enough. I wasn't embarrassed, Eddie said. I was disgusted. I realized this party wasn't testing loyalty. It was testing desperation. He said that after that night he knew something had changed. I didn't just walk out of a party, Eddie told the jury. I walked out of Hollywood's secret world. The one behind closed doors, where favors are traded for silence. Then things shifted. Projects he was promised, canceled. Roles written for him, recast. His agent of 7 years, stopped answering. One producer who once praised him told someone, "He's not aligned anymore." Eddie looked straight ahead. Aligned with what, he asked. Aligned with Diddy? With monkey brains and rituals? He didn't sound angry. He sounded sad. They didn't fire me. They didn't blacklist me loudly. They just stopped, calling. That's how the real blacklist works. No gunshot. Just silence. Eddie said he tried to keep going. He wrote scripts, pitched ideas, did voice work, but nothing stuck. It felt like I was floating outside the gates, he said. People smiled in meetings, said the right things, but nothing moved. I started wondering, is it the timing? The market? But then he heard the whispers. What people said when he wasn't in the room. Prosecutors showed emails from a studio exec. Next to Eddie's name, not aligned, pass. The judge accepted it as evidence. Eddie leaned into I want this court to understand. Hollywood's blacklist doesn't have a label. It has a smile. It shakes your hand while it erases you. He said he was labeled, not for harming anyone, but for refusing to be harmed. Then he paused. There are others, he said. Other people who disappeared because they said no. And we all act like it's just coincidence, but it's not. He ended the moment with a quiet truth. Hollywood doesn't just make movies, It makes myths. And the biggest myth is that success comes from talent. It doesn't. It comes from compliance. Then Eddie gave the courtroom its biggest shock yet. There's a list, he said. Not written down, but everyone knows it. People you don't speak against. If you do, you're gone. The courtroom tensed. The judge warned him to avoid guessing. Eddie nodded. I'm not guessing, Your Honor, I lived it. He took a breath and said the names. Diddy is on that list. Tyler Perry is on that list. Oprah Winfrey. She helped write it. The jury shifted. Reporters typed fast. Eddie explained. The list isn't paper, it's a boundary. Cross it and your name disappears. Not because you did wrong, but because you talked. That's how Diddy stayed untouchable for so long. It wasn't just money. It was fear. Fear of even mentioning him in the wrong way. He claimed even people who weren't at the parties protected Diddy. Why? Because they owed him. Tyler Perry knew, Eddie said. So did others. They didn't need to join in the darkness. They just had to look the other way. When asked if he ever warned anyone, Eddie nodded. A friend told me, you're crossing the line. They don't come back for people who cross it. They haven't spoken since. The judge allowed Eddie to show emails, texts, and call logs, proof that things changed right after the party. They don't tell you you're cut off, Eddie explained. They just stop replying. One day you're must-have, the next you're not now. Then came the harshest truth of the day. You think Diddy blackballed people alone? No, he had help. He had protection. A whole network. He looked straight at the jury. This isn't just about what happened in that house. It's about how many people stayed silent, how many paid to cover it up, how many got rich while the rest of us vanished. Eddie then turned quiet. The courtroom leaned in. The prosecutor asked how it affected him personally. Eddie paused, then said, It broke me. Not all at once, but little by little. He said he didn't talk to anyone, not even close friends. No one would believe me, and worse, if they did believe me, they'd be next. He described long periods of silence. Days I didn't leave my house. Sat in a chair. Replayed. That night. Not because of what happened to me, but what I saw done to others. Eddie said he leaned on his family more than ever. My kids saved me, he told the court. Hearing them laugh from another room, it reminded me of what mattered, of what was real. He also turned to faith, not as a show, but as a lifeline. I stopped asking God why, I started asking when. When would I speak? When would people listen? When would truth matter more than money? The courtroom was silent. Eddie said he went to therapy and met with spiritual counselors. He needed help dealing with the guilt for walking away while others stayed behind. I kept wondering, should I have done more? Should I have pulled someone out with me? He looked toward Diddy. But I know now, the most dangerous thing I ever did was stay silent. And I stayed silent too long. The prosecutor asked why he never wrote a book or gave interviews. Eddie smiled sadly. Because the people who hold the microphones, he said, are the same people who protect the secrets. He ended that part with a quiet truth. I lost the spotlight, but I found peace. And that's the first real role I ever played, man free of the lie. The prosecutor stepped forward. Mr. Murphy, why now? Why speak today after all this time? Eddie exhaled slowly. The room went still. Because the walls are finally cracking, he said. For the first time, I'm not the only one speaking. And for the first time, people are listening. He said everything changed when he heard Cassie Ventura speak in court. When her voice broke, when she told her story, something inside me shifted. Then came Monique, testifying with receipts, transcripts, and years of pain. Then came the old Prince recording, him warning about things no one believed when he was alive. I couldn't stay quiet, Eddie said. Not again. Not when there's still blood on the floor. He admitted fear kept him silent for years. Not just fear of losing roles, but fear of being erased. I saw what happened to others who spoke out. They weren't just canceled, they vanished. But now the silence had cracked wide open. "This trial changed everything," he said. "There's a domino effect happening here, and I'd rather be the next one to fall for truth than stand safe in a lie." Eddie described watching Diddy scream in court, watching defenses fall apart, watching public opinion shift, not because of headlines, but because people were finally speaking under oath. "I don't need a book deal," Eddie said. "I don't want redemption. I want peace. And peace only comes when truth is louder than lies." He shared something personal. His kids had recently asked him why he stopped acting. "I couldn't look them in the eye and say I got tired. That wasn't true. I stopped because I wasn't willing to lose myself just to keep working." Then, he looked directly at the jury. "I'm not doing this to destroy Diddy. I'm doing this so no one else ever has to be built up by him." The judge called a short recess. As Eddie stood up, many in the courtroom stood with him, not because they had to, but because they wanted to, out of respect. When court resumed, the atmosphere had changed, heavier, more serious. Everyone sensed Eddie's time on the stand was ending, but no one knew how he would finish. The prosecutor asked one final question. "Mr. Murphy, in your opinion, what's the one thing the jury and the public need to take from your testimony?" Eddie paused, then leaned close to the mic. "That Hollywood doesn't run on talent," he said. "It runs on submission." You could hear a pin drop. He continued. "It rewards obedience, not honesty. The second you stop nodding, stop pretending you're out. What happened at Diddy's parties wasn't random. It was a system, hidden, controlled, and fueled by fear, favors, and silence. I saw good. People become puppets," he said. "I saw grown men eat monkey brains just to land a role. And the ones laughing the hardest? They were the ones pulling the strings." He turned to the defense table. "This man didn't build an empire, he built a trap, and we thought we were climbing, but we were being led deeper in." He faced the jury. "I should have said something sooner, but I'm saying it now. Because what's done in the dark is coming to light, and today you're seeing it without blinking." Then came the line that would be quoted everywhere. "Don't protect the pretty lie. Let the truth be ugly." He stood. The judge thanked him. The courtroom was silent. Diddy, visibly shaken, said nothing. Eddie Murphy, once comedy's biggest star, had just delivered the most serious role of his life. And maybe changed everything. As Eddie stepped down, the courtroom stayed frozen. No whispers, no motion, just the weight of what had been said. No music played, no gavel struck. The silence spoke louder than anything else. Diddy stared forward, stone still. His lawyers shuffled their notes, but none dared speak. The jury looked different now, eyes sharper, minds heavier. They had heard something they couldn't unhear. Outside, reporters sent headlines flying. Eddie Murphy names the machine. Submission over talent, Murphy's final word. Don't protect the pretty lie. But inside the court, it wasn't about press. It wasn't about celebrity. It was about something darker being dragged into the light. Finally, the trial would continue. More witnesses, more names, more silence breaking. But Eddie's moment marked a turning point. Because someone powerful had said what everyone feared to say. In a place built on pretending he had told the truth. And the world had listened.